white people. So yeah, that is where I'll start with you guys today. And part of it is there's this stigma with golf that it's an old people sport, that you gotta wear funky clothes to do it, that you have to follow the ethics, you have to play by everybody's rules, and that's not necessarily true, and that's something I'm setting out to change. And so I got into golf when I was probably about 20 years old. After high school, me and friends started going out on the golf course. We would have a couple drinks, play some golf, and it was a really good time. At some point it became a stress reliever for me, and through that I ended up finding opportunities. And that's something that I actually want to talk to you guys about today. So some of the major concepts we'll talk about today is leveraging your passions into opportunities. Just starting. That's huge. It's super important. And once you start, don't stop, and then you should always seek failure. This is actually a picture from our first research and development night. We were working with a golf course that we no longer work with because sometimes your business relationships don't always pan out the way you intended. And sometimes there's nothing you can do about it, but also it's good to just push forward because we were able to seek failure in this opportunity. We found a golf course that we wanted to work with, started to work with them, things didn't work out, and we ended up at a much better golf course because of it. So sometimes when people say things happen for a reason, it's definitely true, I believe. You just need to start. Go ahead guys, come on in.
There's a seat here, one there, two there. There's 4 seats right here, 5, one next to Kayla.
And so I know that golf has been an old man's sport and there is a stigma towards it, and what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to change some of that. So my story, I started going to college and really fell in love with electronic music. I had a passion for music already, and this was my outlet. I pursued a DJing career for about 4 years, and I was able to get some local success, and it was a really fun time. What this taught me is you have to love the projects that you're working on. So how many of you guys know what you want to work on? Like, you know the project you're going forward with your future. 1, 2, 3 hands, 4 hands, 5, 6. That's awesome. Because I didn't have that much direction when I was your age. I didn't know what I wanted, and I was just kind of doing things that I enjoyed. And because of that, it was able to create opportunities for me. So while I was doing the DJ thing, in my last couple years, I was picked up by a management agency, and things started to look really well. Unfortunately, things didn't pan out the way I intended, and even though I loved music, I loved the projects, I loved going out and playing, the industry beat me up, chewed me up, and spit me out. And that's why I think it's really important that you guys love your projects, because no matter how much you care about a project, at some point it's going to get really challenging, it's going to get exceptionally difficult, and if you don't care about your project enough, you'll throw your hands up in the air and walk away. And so I think that it's really important, because when I look back on this part of my life, I see that I really cared about something, I was passionate about it, but I let it affect me. I was able to be jaded by the business of music, and because of that I walked away from something I was passionate and that I cared about. And so I always look back on that and say, like, why did I do that? So I think that it's really important that you care about your projects. It's important that you're passionate about it, because at some point it's going to become challenging and tough, and you need to be able to care enough about your project to continue with it. And so I went to college, I did the DJ thing for a while, and unfortunately it turned into a dead end for me, or a stopping point. I look back on that with a little bit of regret at this point, and unfortunately there's nothing I can do about it now, and afterwards I had approximately a year's worth of time where I didn't know what to do. I was questioning everything I have done up until this point, and so I started to read. I started to read about personal development and entrepreneurship and business development, and from that I was just trying to get everything I could to find out what I was going to do next, what my next steps were. Fortunately, I was able to take my stress-relieving sport, or if you could call it a sport, golf, and I was able to turn it into a business. One reason that I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur, or I knew I wanted to focus on things that I thought was important, was because I work at a company called Taylor Guitars. Has anybody here heard about Taylor Guitars?
Of course.
So it's a local company, acoustic guitar manufacturer. Bob Taylor started the company about 40 years ago, and he was 19 years old, loved guitars, and started making guitars. The company now is in El Cajon, and there's nearly 1,000 employees for that company. He started the company when he was 19 years old, and he was able to build it all the way up without giving away any creative control, and that's pretty phenomenal these days. The inspiration in that story is that Bob Taylor loved guitars and loved to build guitars, and from that he created a guitar company. I now work for Bob Taylor. I've worked there for about 6 years. And I have found that if you are an employee at a place, you will continue to remain an employee at that place. Unless you try to start your own projects, you find your own ventures, and you work towards building something yourself, because otherwise you will continue to remain an employee. And so it's not Bob Taylor's fault. That's how businesses work. They need employees to fill positions, and that's exactly what I do in that function. But I knew that if I wanted to get somewhere further, that I would have to start that project, because it wasn't just going to open up. I've applied for other positions to move up in the company, and it doesn't always work. But the thing is I knew that I would continue to remain an employee unless I started something on my own. And so through reading about business development and personal development and entrepreneurship, I found out that I wanted to start something new, and I wanted to create something new. I was able to think about lots of concepts, ideas. I know that I'm not sure about your guys' ideas at this point, but a lot of things now are in the tech space, right? So you're thinking about like, oh, what app can I create? What website can I create? What can I do to disrupt the tech industry? And of course that's kind of like an easy thing to fall into, but if you don't have the coding skills or UX or user interface or user experience tools, then you're not able to actually pursue those. So you guys are School of Entrepreneurship and Technology. How many of you guys are headed into the tech sector or looking towards that? Okay, 1, 2, a couple. So it's good to be self-aware of what you have and what you have to offer, and to know that you should work in directions that you have skills, right? Kind of like I said, leveraging passions into opportunities. I knew that I could come up with creative app designs or ideas, but I couldn't follow through on them. And part of that could be your business partners or who you choose to work with, but I knew that I couldn't do that, so I started to move away from ideas like that. The nightlife golf origin story. Me and my friends like to play golf occasionally, and we were out at drinks after work on a Friday night. We were talking about how we wanted to get out on the golf course, have a good time, and unfortunately none of our schedules matched up through the rest of the weekend, so we couldn't go onto a golf course. Mainly because the sun dictates when you can play golf. We were at the bar just talking about playing golf, and we realized we couldn't play because our schedules didn't line up. And I remembered seeing a glow-in-the-dark golf ball at a sporting goods store. And so I said, hey guys, maybe we've had one too many drinks, but I think we should go get some of those golf balls and sneak onto a golf course. Terrible idea. That is how a terrible idea starts. Fortunately, we went to the sporting goods store, and they didn't sell the balls anymore. I asked the clerk about why they didn't have them, and he said, yeah, unfortunately nobody purchased these, so we discontinued them. And so, at that moment, I was thankful that I was unable to trespass onto a golf course and potentially get in a lot of trouble. But I saw an opportunity there, because me and my friends wanted to play golf. The sun was dictating when we could do it, and there was opportunities through a product that I had found in playing at night. And so that sparked something. I had been looking for a business idea, trying to conceive of something that would work, and this seemed like something that was viable. It was new, there wasn't competition, it was exciting and different, it's novel, it's something fun, all things that I believe in, and then it's something that I can put my passions into. And so I used to DJ and I used to focus on electronic music, and so I understand what the nightlife scene is like, And there's problems that I have with that too. So I have a problem with the stigma of golf, that it's an old person sport, that you have to wear funky clothes, that you have to follow etiquette. But I also have a stigma with the nightlife industry. And you guys don't know this yet, but if you do start to go out when you get a little bit older, you'll see that nightclubs are packed. You have to pay a lot to get into them. It's uncomfortable being there. There's no room to actually dance, which is what you're supposed to be able to do at these locations. And so, my problem with both of these, I decided to just kind of mix them together and see if I could create a new experience, something fun, different, and novel for people to do, and create a better nightlife experience. Because at some point, going to a crowded bar gets boring, or it's not even fun. It's supposed to be your Friday or Saturday night, and instead you're cramped at a place where you're not even interacting. And I think that interactions are a great thing, and it's kind of starting to become a thing of the past with technology. Ironically enough, everybody's on their phones nowadays, and so I wanted to cultivate an experience where people could have fun, do something, and have room to do it. And so I started with nightlife golf. And so right off the bat, I knew that I needed to find a location, I knew that there needed to be products and an experience, and I knew that I had to create it all. Part of the great thing about business is you can have partners. And I've had some partners come and go, but the only person that stayed consistent with this company is myself. Entrepreneurship is a funny thing, and when it comes to having partners, it's great because you can share responsibilities. It's really important to be able to do that. If you don't, and you're like me, that means you have to wear a lot of hats. You have to be a web designer, you have to be a graphic designer, you have to be able to be your own CFO and manage your own budgets. You have to be able to create a business model and a business plan and a business canvas. Have you guys ever played with a business model or a business canvas? You have? Anybody else? There you go. Those are really, really great projects, even if it's just for fun, to figure out what does a business plan look like, and how does a business canvas work to make your company look like something that's viable. And something that I've also had to do after building a business plan and a business canvas is understand that it needs to be fluid. Especially with a new company, it's important that your business plan is fluid because it needs to be able to change and adapt. You need to be able to find your revenue streams, and you have to follow those, especially if you want to stay alive as a business. And so I started doing research and development. There's a handful of different vendors I reached out to that had night golf products, and I started by just asking. I said as one of the major concepts that you should seek failure. I just started asking for products without trying to pay for them. I said, hey guys, this is what I'm doing, this is my concept, this could be a lot of business for you in the future. I'd like to know if you could send me some samples, and we're going to test your products out and see if we'll include them in our experience. A handful of companies right away said, of course, we'll send you the products. They shipped them out for free right away. A couple of them asked me to pay for shipping, and one of the companies asked me to pay for the products. But it's always nice to start and just ask, because you never know what people are going to say. They might want to help you, especially if you can show a way that you can add value, right? Like, I'm going to do this experience and you have this light and I'm going to end up buying 500 of them in the future. Can I get one sample or 2 or 3 samples to try them out, test them, and see if we're going to include them in our experience? And it worked. And so this is an example of what the course actually looks like. That's one of the glow-in-the-dark golf balls. They're actually blacklight powered balls, so we have a charging station at each tee box. So when you walk up to the tee box, you charge your balls under the charging station, and then you can tee off and it'll glow for a high power glow for about 8 to 10 minutes, and then there's a residual glow that lasts for a couple of hours. And so this is also what it looks like. One of the things that we thought was really important was to work with really good photographers and videographers. You need to be able to tell a story, especially with something that's fun and novel and different, especially if people have never been able to experience what you're trying to do. Some of what you're doing when you're advertising to these people is educating them. You have to literally explain to them what they're coming to do, right? And so it was really important to us that we got high quality photos and video for what we're doing. And so this kind of shows it here. This course is the Loma Club. It's in Liberty Station in Point Loma. It's pretty close to here. And they've been really helpful. In fact, the general manager of the course was extremely helpful. He was actually doing a minimalistic night golf on their own at the course. And with that, one of the vendors said, hey, I've got a nearby golf course that you should go and you should check out some of our products at that course. And so the general manager of the course was extremely helpful, invited us out to check out the products. We got to test them out, and from that we started to build a relationship. We originally didn't intend to end up at this course, but through our talks and continued visits to this location, we were able to talk about how we could support their night golf. And one thing that makes our company unique is that golf courses can and do their own night golf. With it being a golf course, they're going to do it at the lowest cost possible to continue to gain revenue, right? So they'll do the cheapest balls possible and the cheapest things around the course to light it up, and they'll try to keep it the lowest cost possible to get people out onto their course. And one thing that makes our company unique is that we're a third-party company, and it's all about the experience to us. It's not about, and this was a mistake for a while, seeking failures, right? But originally it wasn't about the budget and making it profitable. Originally it was about creating the experience. And once we got the experience down, then we could start to look at the budget and how we were doing there. And in the beginning it was pretty bad. Our first event had about 40 golfers, and our second event had 96 golfers, and it sold out.
Nice.
That it was an accomplishment moment, but I had to learn from a failure there that I was not paying enough attention to the budget and how we did the events to make it profitable. So although we sold out an event with 96 golfers, we walked away with a little bit of debt. And that's tough. That's really challenging. And those are the kind of failures you need to be able to slap you in the face to say, hey, wake up, you're not doing this right. And you need to learn from those kind of failures, right? Because it's a great success to have that many people out. But on the financial standpoint, it was a major failure because we weren't able to turn that many people into a profit. And since then, we've had probably about 4 or 5 events since then, and we've started to see profits. And that's pretty phenomenal, especially that we've just made it past our first year of business. But it's a consistent challenge to be able to market the event, to be able to sell enough tickets to make it profitable, to be able to have margins that work. One thing that's tough because we are a third-party company is that we also have to cut in the golf course on everything we make. So it's challenging to find the right mix, especially with consumers, because people want a value no matter where they go. We live in the Walmart age where people want things and they want them cheap, they want them accessible, and they don't want to pay for them. And so one thing that we've done with our events is our events cost $49.99 standard pricing and $39.99 early bird. That's $40 a ticket. With that, it includes your night golf experience, 2 glow-in-the-dark golf balls so you can lose one and keep playing, an LED bracelet, as well as your tee time. And so $40 is kind of a jerking point for some people. They think about going out and they're like, I want to spend $20. They kind of have a preconceived number in their head, and if you differ from that, it's challenging. Like I said, you have to educate people about what the experience is to make them feel like it's okay or worth spending that money. There are 3 night golf companies in America, and one of them is a driving range focused company. One of them is up in Northern California, and it is a very similar concept to ours. Their first event was 1 day after our first event, and so it's been interesting to see how they're growing and what they're doing and what we're doing. One thing that I really wanted to do was I wanted to create an awesome experience at an exceptional value. And so if you look at some of the other night golf companies, tickets start at like $75 or $85. So what I have done is I've cut that price almost in half, and we're doing it at extreme value, but with that, that is where my challenge has been with creating a healthy margin for a sustainable business, right? Because once you pay for the liability insurance for an event, once you pay for the balls, which are one of the most expensive costs that we have, it's almost $600 for 200 balls. It's like $3 a piece almost. And once you've started to make all of these investments, your event has this cost, right? And so our events cost somewhere around a little under $2,000 for a 50-plus person event. And then you have to be able to price things out to be able to sell enough to make it profitable. And so it's been a really challenging portion of this company to find out what the right mix is with cost and value and profit even, because it's such a challenge to be able to have enough margin for a healthy business and to be able to satisfy people with a price point that makes them comfortable and worth spending their money on it. And so we worked really hard to create this experience, and even though it's something awesome and every time we get people out, they're excited about it, they love it, they talk it up, converting new users is always challenging. So one of the things that the major concepts that I spoke about was just starting. It's important that you just start, because so many people, unfortunately so many people talk about how they have these ideas. I have this idea, this concept, this business idea, and rarely ever do you see people actually follow through on it. And so I know that it's tough and it's challenging, and it's kind of like jumping double dutch jump rope. You're waiting for your opportunity to jump in. You're waiting for your opportunity to jump in. But if you don't actually jump in at some point and accept that you might fail, you're never going to start. And so it's really important that you guys start. I think that there's a problem with a lot of people when they want to start a business because they're concerned about failure, and then they're also concerned about not knowing all of the answers. And that's okay. I asked a handful of you guys if you have your own business ideas or concepts that you're going to be moving forward on in the future. I think it's great if you have those ideas. If you don't be beaten down by it, because it's okay. It's okay not to have all the answers. It's okay not to know what to do next. I feel a large part of entrepreneurship for myself has been there's a mountain of stuff to do, right? And you can only do so much of it, and really it's just done in short bursts. It's like take off as much as you can off the top of the mountain, and then a bunch of stuff will eventually come back. But it's having the persistence to keep going and to keep trying to take things off of the top of that mountain, because it is overwhelming. There can be a lot, but if you don't start, you'll never get anywhere. And so it's okay not to know all the answers, and it's important that you just start, because you can learn as you go. It's not as challenging as you might think most of the time. You kind of build things up in your head in a way that makes it seem unsurmountable or impossible, but they're actually a lot more tangible than you think. And it's important that you just start to get there. Another thing about seeking failures is I read a book called Think and Grow Rich, and in that book there's an example about Darby. And Darby's uncle bought equipment to go and do the gold rush in Colorado when Darby was a kid. And so Darby's uncle came back to get financing to continue to work on this gold rush project, and Darby eventually ended up going with him, right? And so Darby worked with him on this gold mine. They were working and drilling and going into the ground trying to find gold, and they found a little bit along the way, and that was motivational, right? It helped them to keep going, it helped to give them funding to keep going, but eventually at some point it became challenging, right? And it became difficult, and because they were running out of money, there was pressure to stop. And unfortunately they sold off all of their equipment to a junker, and the junker thought, why don't I get an experienced engineer or professional to come take a look at it? And he gets the engineer out, he takes a look at the area, surveys what's going on, and Darby and his uncle gave up when they were 3 feet away from a major gold strike, right? And I think that it's really important that you're persistent and that you don't stop, because if you do stop, you never know how far away from a success you are, right? And that's why when I was DJing and I gave up, I never know how far away I was from success. I let the industry spit me up and chew me up and spit me out, and because of that, I was jaded and I stopped. But who knows how close I was to success, you know? But I always look back on that as a defining moment for me, because I gave up on something that I cared about. And that's why it's important that you're passionate and you care about your projects, because you never know how far away from success you are, so you have to stay in it, and you really have to be resilient and persistent. It's easy to give up when you get beaten up, and that's why it's really important that you care about your projects. I think that is the majority of my speaking points. Do we have any questions? Can I open up the floor to Q&A?
I see some marketing interns in your future, because we have interns who will help you with your marketing. They're excellent writers. There are a few students who I can think of who would be happy to intern with you if that's something you want to do. Is that
Yeah,
a
of course.
possibility?
Yeah, there's definitely opportunities. What's your question?
So actually just this morning I thought of a really good idea for a business that I've been kind of thinking about for a while. I've been complaining about a problem for a while, and my dad's like, you know, you could start a business with that, and I'm
Right.
like, wait a minute, but I have no idea where to even start.
That's great. That's a good thing. Okay, so
Because I have no idea how to make this thing, I have no idea what to do.
right,
and I'm
this
not going
thing.
to mention what it is in case someone steals my idea.
Okay, that's a good point, right? That people are scared about sharing their ideas, right? And I think that that's a little bit silly sometimes, because people can steal your ideas. That happens. It does happen, right? But part of being passionate about what you're working on is really important. And if people just try to run with an idea, there's a lot of work involved, right? So you have to really care about a project to run with it and try to make it tangible and real, right? So, night golf, right? This is where I am now, but I have plans for the future, right? Disc night golf, right? Making it more accessible to people who don't know how to play regular golf, right? And I'm comfortable with talking about those things because I know that it's going to take so much work for somebody to start up and get to the point where I'm at with disc night golf. So I can talk about those kind of things. And so one great thing about ideas and talking about them and sharing them is you get people's perspectives and their own individual inputs, and it's good to get other people's perspectives. So I think that at some point it's important to protect your intellectual property, right? But at the same time, I think it's great to share ideas and to work with people because you never know what value others can add to your projects, right? And so it can be concerning to let people in, to talk to them, but I think it's great also to share sometimes, because if you don't know what to do, you're already questioning where to start, a lot of your peers can help with that, right? But there's also a downside to that too, right? You could overshare and be asking too much of others. So there's kind of a balance that you have to strike there, but sometimes I think it's a good thing to share because it can really help bring new perspectives, new ideas, and new concepts to your idea that could help make it grow or even successful. Does that help a little bit?
Yeah.
Do you have a follow-up question regarding that?
Not really,
Okay.
other than if anyone has any experience in candy making, hit me up.
Candy. There you go. And that's awesome. And if you know that that's a field you're lacking in, looking for business
Definitely
partners
is.
that could support that are a really good way to go, right? Because you say, okay, I've got this idea, this concept, this business model, but I can't make the candy, right? But somebody else can make candy. So if you find that kind of partner, it could be a really successful relationship, right? Any other questions?
Thanks. Alright. So like disc night golf, like full on strobe light, like neon colored, like ultimate frisbee at midnight would be pretty cool. There's probably already a market for that.
Right?
But my real question was, just like how successful did you get in
How successful?
electronic music?
Right, and that's why at the beginning of this talk, I started by saying, how did I get here, right? I'm not successful. I don't view it as successful, right? I view it as I'm launching.
I meant the music part. Like,
Oh, the music part.
Like how far did you get?
Oh, how far did I get? I was playing, in a month I would probably play 3 to 5 times in nightclubs in downtown. I played at some of the biggest pool parties in San Diego. I was able to reach a certain level of success that I wanted to get to, but I didn't get past some of my... I had certain goals that I had, and I got to some of them, but I didn't get all the way. And so I was playing my own music in nightclubs. I wasn't just playing other people's music, I was producing and playing some of my own music, and for a while that was a really awesome feeling. When you see somebody interacting and connecting with a song that you've created, it's a pretty special experience. And that was pretty fun, a great time. Any other questions? But a little bit on that topic that I was talking about on success. I'm 26 years old, I work a full-time job, and I drive Uber just to support my company. I don't stop, and as an entrepreneur, I can't stop. I have a responsibility to everybody that believes in this company as well as myself to keep this going. And so there's been some success and there's been some challenges, but all of those challenges or failures have come up with learning opportunities, right? We were able to see that having a sold-out event with a terrible budget doesn't make a good mix, right? We were able to fix that, to renegotiate with the course, bring down our cost with the course, and get our margins back to a healthier state to where we had an event with 45 people that was profitable. And so you can always learn from the data, right? And so we were talking a little bit about marketing and people being able to help with marketing. Marketing data is amazing. Being able to track your sales through tracking links is the best. You can put specific tracking links on your website, you can put tracking links on your ticket sales page, your Facebook, social media, Instagram, and then as people click on those links, it comes back through and you can track all of that through your ticket buying service. And so using that data and being able to know what your strong suits are and pursuing those is really important. We did a lot of testing, and through our promotional campaigns we were able to use specific ticket codes, right? And so we'll give a discount for this code. And we were able to put a different code for each location that we promoted at. And through the data we were able to find out that a driving range and 2 specific golf courses were bringing us the most ticket sales. And so after that we were able to see that we shouldn't waste our time at these golf courses that never bring us sales, and then we focus on the courses that are, right? We go to the driving range and we set up a booth and we promote there because we know that we have a high ticket sale conversion rate. We can see that our website sells most of the tickets, and if our website sells most of the tickets, then we need to push people to the website and the website will convert people. But there's always data you can look to that can help you follow your revenue streams. And so I talked about a revenue stream being important, and that your business model needs to be fluid so you can focus on what's profitable, right? Since we've done these events, we've realized that the public events may not be our most profitable events, but they help continue to push our name, to get us out there for marketing. And then we've started to notice that maybe business-to-business sales might be for us. So doing corporate events, company outings, fundraisers for nonprofit organizations. Those are events that could bring us a specific dollar amount without us having to do any marketing, any promotion. And so it's important that you find out what your revenue streams are and work towards getting there, because that's what's going to bring you revenue, and that's what you need to survive. Any other questions?
Since you said that, like how did you go about not, like you said, how did you go about not knowing where to start?
Not knowing where to start, right? Google. Isn't it crazy? Like, you guys have the most information available to you ever. There's never been this much information available to people your age, ever. And that's a pretty amazing thing. You can literally Google, where do I start with my business? And the SBA, Small Business Association, will pop up and it'll say, how to start your business. 12 steps before moving forward with your business, right? That's how I found out I needed a fictitious business name, or doing business as, right? And that's how I went and I signed up through our government to actually have a business, and then I was able to move forward with that. I was able to look into formations, right? Because you have your C Corps and your S Corps and your LLCs, but I was able to see with where I'm at and what I'm doing, limiting my investment. I was able to start a personal business, which would be, I don't know why I'm blanking on that.
Sole proprietor?
Sole proprietor, thank you so much for that. I don't know why I blinked on that. But I was able to start a sole proprietorship, which is how I started this company, right? And so because of that, I was able to be taxed on a really nice, in a really nice way that's kind of favorable to the fact that I am an individual who's running a company, right? I do have another job and a second job just to support this company, and so I've moved forward in that way, and I've protected myself through things like liability insurance because I'm not an LLC. And so those are some kind of important things. I don't know how much you guys have jumped into business formations into school, but if you're in an LLC, it separates you from the company itself. So if somebody was to sue the company, they're suing the company, not you as an individual. A unique position where I stand, there's some risk involved because if somebody was to sue this company, I'm the sole proprietor of this company, so they're suing me, right? So there's some risk involved, but for tax reasons, I chose to stay a sole proprietor, and our next steps are moving to a C or an S corp, right? Because those are taxed on a different way as well. So I think that it's really important that you just jump in, go to Google, ask questions. Where do I start, you know? If you haven't done a business model or a business canvas, start there. Because then you can start to see how your company looks, what your customers are, you know? How do you interact with those customers, and how does it derive sales, revenue, right?
What has been your demographic so far?
Demographics. I love talking about demographics, right? So far our events have hosted people from age 14 all the way through age 76, and they've all had a great time, right? And so originally we thought, okay,
Like-
our demographic is this specific niche.
So like predominantly.
Predominantly, yeah, predominantly it's probably 25 to 40-year-olds, predominantly. And ironically enough, you would think it would be more males, but it's actually a good amount of balance. A lot of females come out for this event as well. And so we've seen, this is a good talking point, we've seen actually a good interest from a lot of different people, and we were invited up to talk at Cobra Puma Golf. You guys aren't golfers, so you don't know it, but Cobra Puma Golf is in Carlsbad, California. They invited us up to come check out the factory. We took a tour. We were able to walk around and talk about the industry of golf, and that was a really unique opportunity. And so one thing that company was excited about is we're bringing a new era or new group of golfers into the sport. And the data shows that, anybody know Tiger Woods? Show of hands, Tiger Woods. Okay, you guys know who Tiger Woods is. Once Tiger Woods stopped golfing, he came back recently, but once he stopped golfing the first time, golf actually started a decline. And so the data shows that the golf was actually hurting pretty bad. And so one thing about business is timing is everything, right? Uber, that happened all because of timing, right? There was a company that was very similar a couple years before, and it didn't work just because of timing. People weren't ready for that kind of technology and ready to adapt to it. And so the timing for our company was great because golf is in a decline, and they're looking for things that are going to get people excited about the sport. And so that timing just happens to be perfect because our company is getting new people excited about the sport and out and playing. And so with that, Cobra Puma was able to invite us up to their parking lot tent sales, and so we got like 80% off of products. And so we bought a bunch of products that we end up giving away at our events, and through that mutually beneficial relationship with great timing, we're able to have awesome opportunities open up for us because our company is able to present a unique opportunity to bring people into the sport, and that's what other companies need. So we're adding value to their company by buying their products and getting people excited about golf, and potentially bringing them back as consumers because that's some of their first interactions with the brand. We've had a lot of people that are serious golfers bring out their friends who don't golf at all, and they have a great time. It's such a novel experience that it's not about skill. And so our events are not tournament based. A lot of people think that, oh, it's a golf tournament, but it's kind of that same stigma that we're trying to get away from. It's about fun, and it's not about competition. And we do host a closest to the hole contest where you can win prizes if you want to be competitive, but for the most part it's just something to do for fun.
Are you working with the Chamber of Commerce or a concierge in the hospitality industry?
So yeah, I've started to look in that direction, and I think that it's really important that we start to move in a direction, especially where we get into hospitality and into hotels.
Because that's a 50-person, 90-person,
Right.
100-person.
Right, and that's part of why I thought that the business to business is probably next for us, focusing on corporate events and company outings and fundraisers for nonprofits, because that's something where we can get just a flat rate. This is your private event package,
Right.
and so we're aware that that's viable, and I'm definitely pushing us in that direction currently.
Student and military discount would be great also.
That's a great point, and actually at our last event, somebody brought up the idea that we don't have a child pricing, or a student pricing, if you will. And so I think part of what's great about having a small business and having my hands in everything is that I can talk to people, I can interact with our users, and I can say, hey, how was your experience tonight? What was lacking? What was amazing, you know? And so it's important to listen to your consumers, because they're the people that keep coming back to support your business, right? And so moving in that direction to having a student or a kid's pricing is important, and hearing people out when they say, I'm uncomfortable with paying this much for this event. I need to be aware of it. I need people to be brutally honest. And so it's, like I said earlier about talking to your friends about your ideas and concepts, it's good, and it's fun to talk to your friends about ideas and concepts. But at the same time, your friends will be nice to you, right? Your friends will say, that's a great idea, oh my goodness, yes, the world needs that. When most of the time, they're being nice to you because they're your friends, right? And it's important. You need that honest, brutal feedback if you want to grow, especially in a direction that people are willing to spend their hard-earned money for, right? Because if you expect people to come out and spend their money on it, it has to be something they're willing to do. And so it's important that you listen to your users or consumers. Any other questions? Okay.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me again. I do have a quick video
Okay.
just to explain what we're doing. You can.
This doesn't look like an old guy sport up there, right?
Yeah. So do you think that the same stigmas? Do you think that it's only an old man sport?
You got rid of the old part. It's the white tag that's definitely staying.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, if you choose to see it that way, I think that it's something that's accessible for all. So hopefully we'll continue to push to change that stigma. But for now, I will continue to listen to everybody's honest feedback, and I'll work to change that.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.